Hi, everybody. It's good to see everybody. I'm glad you're still tuning in. This week, we're going to talk about reptiles of Western North Carolina. But we did have a challenge last week. I asked you guys, we didn't have a state raptor because we talked about raptors last week, remember? So I asked you guys to pick out a raptor that you like and give me a reason as to why you would want it to be the state raptor. But we'll talk about that next week, okay? You guys can let me know about that. But right now, we're gonna move on to reptiles of Western North Carolina. And this slide, the first slide right here, these are the 5 guys we're gonna talk about. The first one over here is a timber rattlesnake. The black guy down there in the corner is a black rat snake. The guy in the middle, I hope everybody knows what he is, that's a copperhead. Guy at the top here, that pretty one, is a box turtle, and that big guy down at the bottom is a snapping turtle. Okay, so first let's go over some snakes. All right, North Carolina is home to 37 snake species. Now here in the mountains in Western North Carolina, we only have 2 venomous snakes, the timber rattlesnake and the copperhead. We don't have water moccasins around here. If you see a snake in the water, it's more than likely a rat snake, but it's not a water moccasin. We don't have water moccasins here, but we do have copperheads and timber rattlers, okay? Most snakes, even the venomous ones, are reluctant to bite. And why would that be? Can anybody tell me why a snake may not want to bite somebody? Does anybody know? Nobody? Okay, all right, that's cool, that's cool. That's why you're here, to find out why. Snakes don't like to bite people because they use a lot of energy and venom to catch their food. So if a snake uses energy and venom to bite you, he's not going to be able to eat for a while. So they're actually pretty smart when it comes to that. So yeah, so they don't want to bite you. They will, but they don't want to. They'd rather do anything else than try to bite you. Okay, most snake bites occur when somebody tries to pick a snake up. So what should we not do with snakes that we don't know? Don't pick them up. Don't pick them up. Leave those poor snakes alone. They really just want to be left alone. Leave those snakes alone. And yeah, I really also, besides picking them up, if you step on one accidentally or you try to kill one, you got to look up trying to kill a snake, because some snakes in North Carolina, it's illegal to kill them. So you really have to pay attention to that. You really, you know, they're good animals. They take care of the mice and the rats around your property. Okay? When snakes are confronted, meaning if somebody approaches them, they're more likely to run away. So if you come upon a snake and it's running away, don't chase it, let it go. It really just wants you to leave it alone. They're an important part of the ecosystem. Why are snakes an important part of the ecosystem?
And you can put your answers in chat if you're more comfortable doing that, or unmute yourself, either one if you want.
Nobody know? Okay. Oh, go ahead.
Can you say the question again?
Yeah, why are snakes important to the ecosystem?
They keep rodent populations under control.
Very good. That's the primary reason. They keep all those mice and rats out of your house, and I'm real thankful for that. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the timber rattlesnake, guys. I really want you to pay attention to the pictures on these. Get a good look at them. This is one of the snakes that you need to be able to identify and stay away from. Okay. They range in size from 3 to 5 feet long, so about as long as I am tall. But the longest one they found was almost 75 inches, which is about that big. So that's a pretty big timber rattlesnake, and they're not the biggest rattlesnakes around. They are members of the viper family. Okay, how do you ID a snake that's a member of a viper family? What is the one thing about a snake that belongs to the viper family that'll tell you that it's part of that family? Anybody know?
Triangular shaped head.
Very good, very good. If you look at the first picture, you can see that snake has a triangular shaped head. Any type of snake that has that head is known as a pit viper or a viper, okay? The interesting thing about these guys, wait a minute, lost my train of thought. I'm gonna roll back, let's go back. Let's go on to their coloring. The head is colored yellow, tan, or gray, and usually has a dark line. You look at this first picture, you'll see that dark line running from the eye to the jaw. That's the first thing that's gonna tell you that's a timber rattlesnake. The shape of the head and the line going from the eye to the jaw, okay? Their main body color can be lots, yellow, tan, brown, gray, and they have dark bands. That's another identifying. So if you see a brownish snake with darkish black bands, you might want to be a little wary of it. The tail is black, as you can see in this middle picture here, and it does have a prominent rattle on it. So this snake does have a rattle, all right? The story I was going to tell before has to do with camouflage of the snake. This picture down here in the corner, I know that snake's pretty hard to see, isn't it? Because can you guys see that snake down there?
You have to really look for it. I didn't see it at first.
Yeah, he's right, there's his head, and he kind of curls around right here, okay? You can see his tail, and even if you look, I mean, that stick almost kind of looks like it might be part, so they blend in really well with their surroundings with those colorings. I was down in a swamp, down on the coast, we were out there looking for snakes, and about 10 of us, we were all walking in a straight line because we didn't want to walk in the swamp water. About 10 of us were walking in a straight line, and the girl in the back said, "Whoa, everybody stop." So we stopped, and we had all stepped over one of these snakes. Just stepped right over it. We didn't even see it. Fortunately, none of us stepped on it because that would have been bad. But that's how well they hide. Okay, so they hide really well. Their habitat, they like to stay in heavily wooded forests with rocky outcrops. Most snakes like that. Why would they like to stay in a heavily wooded forest? Any reason you think?
I think it would be harder for predators to see them.
Exactly. They're using the leaf litter in the bottom of the forest so the predators can't see them. Rocky outcrops, they hide in there. Most predators can't get in there after them, okay? All right. Their diet consists of small mammals, birds, amphibians, and other snakes, which makes them a what? If they eat all animals, what are they? Come on, guys, I know you know this. We went over this every single time.
I think they're carnivores.
Miss Shauna's right. They're carnivores. They're carnivorous, okay? They are diurnal in the spring and fall, nocturnal in summer, okay? Hibernate in the winter, and interestingly enough, the black rat snakes and the northern copperheads allow them to hibernate with them. So if you look down here at this first picture, you can see a bunch of different snakes all kind of curled up in there. So they all like to hang out together in the winter time. I don't know if I'd like being in there, but yeah. The dens are usually on open south-facing slopes. Can anybody, and this is a good question, can anybody tell me why would they build a den or take a den on a south-facing slope? What hits a south-facing slope the most? It's up in the sky. It's big and yellow and round.
The sun.
The sun, guys. They like south-facing slopes because the sun will warm up those rocks. Because reptiles, do they have warm blood? No reptiles have warm. Yeah, they're cold-blooded, so they need that sun to stay warm. So that's why they like those south-facing slopes. And then they also have the hardwood forests around them so they can have some good camouflage when they're out there hunting. Okay? The adults shed their skin once or twice a year, and every time they shed it, boop, up pops a new rattle on the end of it. So if you see a snake with a pretty long rattle, that snake's kind of old, all right? We discussed before that they are part of the pit viper family. This is another characteristic of that. These two pits right here on either side of his face That is in his nose. Those are heat sensing organs. So in other words, if he's out kind of cruising around looking for some food, he's going to pick up heat with those organs that'll tell him, hey, there might be a warm-blooded mouse over here, so I'm going to go that way. So it actually helps him hunt. Rattlesnake won't chase you. It won't pursue you. It won't jump down on you off of a tree or anything like that. It won't do it. They're like any other snake. They just want to be left alone. Okay. All right, guys, now we're going to talk about one of these guys. And I know, has anybody here ever seen a copperhead in the wild? Yeah, we got a lot of nodding. Okay. Yeah, copperheads are pretty common around. Yes.
We have seen some. We saw a baby rattlesnake one time when we were copperhead when we were swimming somewhere in a lake, and we saw a baby copperhead, and once we saw it, we just got out.
That's probably a good idea. That's a good idea. And we'll talk about baby copperhead. What? Go ahead.
Here's a stuffed copperhead.
Well, I'll talk about baby copperheads in a little while. It was a good thing you got out of the water, and I'll tell you why. Okay? They're a heavy-bodied snake, meaning they're really big around. They've got really good muscles in there. Average adult length between 2 to 3 feet. So, about that big. Okay? They're sometimes gray, pink, and tan, which you can kind of see a pinkish color here. They're light brown or coppery, strongly contrasting chestnut brown bands. And the easiest way to remember this is they're shaped like Hershey Kisses or hourglasses, depending on how you look at it. If you look at this guy on this picture here, you can see on the sides, those do look like Hershey Kisses. So if you're approaching a snake or copperhead from the side and you see these little Hershey Kiss marks, best to stay away. If you walk up on it and unfortunately see it from overhead, you're going to see the hourglass shape more because these Hershey Kisses are on both sides of the body. Okay, so that's the easiest way to remember what he looks like. He likes the woodlands, just like the timber rattler. It provides cover and sun for basking. Basking. What does basking mean? What does he do when he basks in the sun?
It's like sunbathing.
Yeah, it's like sunbathing. He's sitting out there and soaking up some rays because he's cold. He wants to get warm. They also like woodland edges, rocky south-facing slopes, and ivy thickets. Can you find these guys in the suburbs? Can you find these guys near your house?
Maybe if your house. They're saying no.
No? Sorry, guys. Yeah, you can. Yeah, they like to live in trash dumps, sawdust piles, dilapidated old sheds and barns, and big brushy hedges or areas that aren't cleared. So if you're around any of those areas near your house, just be careful because they do like to live in those areas as well. Okay. All right, these guys are diurnal and nocturnal. They're usually nocturnal in the summer, okay? Why would they be nocturnal in the summer if they like the sun? They're nocturnal in the summer because they're avoiding predators. They come out and hunt at night. During the day when they're out basking in the sun, yeah, they do it, but they don't stay out there all day because, yeah, something could come up and get them. They're sit and wait predators. Sit and wait predators. Somebody tell me, what does a sit and wait predator, what does that mean? How do they hunt?
It means that they sit and wait for their prey to come close enough, and then they immediately eject the venom, and then either they wrap themselves around and choke the prey to death, or they eject venom to kill the
Okay, copperheads aren't constrictors, so they're not going to choke them to death, but you are totally right. they do sit and wait for the guys, for the predator, for the prey to come by, because that's saving them energy. They don't have to move, and that saves their venom. So yeah, they like to do it, but they will go out and hunt, but they prefer to sit and kind of hang out and try to get the mice and the rats to them. Okay. These guys do have predators. Okay. One of their biggest predators is an eastern king snake, black racers, and then of course carnivorous mammals and birds. And eastern king snakes and black racers are snakes as well, so they'll eat a copperhead. They do have a defense. Their defenses are hiding in shelter or by camouflage. That's what I told you before. They don't want to strike at anything unless they really, really have to. And what's interesting about these snakes is they also give off, and I know some of you guys have smelled this, that snaky smell. Has anybody smelled that smell?
Yeah.
Yeah, you'll know it when you smell it. It's kind of a funky smell. It's interesting. So if you smell that, then realize that there's probably a snake around, or he's been nearby lately, and he might have felt threatened. Okay. They nest in the same places that they can be found. So basically they're going to nest in hardwood forests and rock crevices and all that good stuff. They hibernate in stumps, stump holes, rock fissures, or other sheltered areas below the frost line. So they're not going to hibernate way up in the mountains because it gets frosty and cold up there real quick. They're going to try to be down in the lower valleys, hibernating down there. 90% of venomous snake bites in North Carolina are not life-threatening. Okay, so that's a good thing to know, but they do hurt, and they will hurt bad. So just leave copperheads alone. If you see one, respect that copperhead space. Say, thank you, Mr. Copperhead, for eating all those mice, and just tootle around them. Because, yeah, you don't want to be near a copperhead. Okay? Oh, back to the young ones. Who was it that said they got out of the water because there was a baby in the water?
We did.
Okay.
Me and Matthew did.
Okay. The reason that was a good idea, little copperheads, they don't know how to control their venom. So if you accidentally had bumped against it and startled it, it could have bitten you. And when little young rattles or young copperheads bite, they will shoot every bit of venom they have into you, which is bad. So yeah, so even if you see a small copperhead, just stay away from them. Just leave them alone, okay? All right, oh, and another good thing about copperheads, and this is cool. Do copperheads have a rattle?
No.
They don't, but as a sign of defense, they will rattle. Okay, what they'll do is they're in this grass, right? You see them on the grass.
They'll go in grass, and then they'll go in grass, and then shiver, and then move around to make it sound like they're a rattlesnake.
Right, they move the leaves to make it sound like a rattle. Exactly. They don't have a rattle, but they will do that. They'll twitch their tail a little bit to get the leaves crunching, so they kind of fool you, you know. So I said they're pretty smart, man. All right, let's move on to the next guy. Okay, this guy, I know he's really big and he's kind of scary looking, but these guys are really good.
I like these guys.
This is a black rat snake, and his color varies. And it depends on the locations. In the mountains, you're going to find them very glossy black, so very shiny. And they have grayish mottled bellies, which means they've got kind of spots on their belly. And then they'll also be white on their chin and their throat. Now, this guy over here is an adult. This guy over here is a juvenile, okay? The juveniles have these patterns that if you look at it real quick, you might think it was a copperhead, but these patterns eventually go away when they get to the adult size. So you're going to see pretty much a shiny black snake, a big one, okay? They can reach 5 to 6 feet in length, so about that big. They're big snakes. They are one of the North Carolina's longest snakes, okay? They occur in every type of terrestrial habitat in North Carolina. That means they're all over the place, all right? They'll live in the woods, they'll live in a field, they'll live next to your house, as Miss Shauna knows. Mm-hmm. They'll live in your farmland. They're pretty much all over the place. They're really skilled at climbing trees.
Mhm.
You guys see this picture over here with the one climbing up the tree? I think that's really cool. Honestly, I didn't know they did that until I saw
I
this
did,
picture.
because I have them on my tree.
Miss Shauna says, yes, they do climb on her trees. These guys, now, who are we talking about? Oh, somebody said the copperheads were constrictors. These guys are constrictors. These guys will grab a hold of their prey and tighten and tighten and tighten around them. And they'll do it to live prey. They won't do it to anything dead because it's dead. They don't need to worry about that, but they will catch the live prey and constrict on them. So these guys are constrictors. And then they swallow their food. They take it in, and you guys have seen snakes swallow big items where it takes them a while to swallow it. Well, unfortunately, they can also swallow things that are inedible. They found black rat snakes with golf balls inside of them, with glass bottles like Coke bottles, wooden or porcelain eggs. Now, why would they find those? Those are used to help chickens if they're not laying. They'll put those in the nests. Well, a snake will mistake that for an egg and he'll swallow it. So yeah, it's very interesting that they can get these things down in their throat. They do nest in the same areas as found, so they nest all over the place as well. They're very slow moving. What do you think their defense is? Look at this picture over here. What is this guy trying to do? What do you think?
Blend them with the gravel.
That's a good answer. What else do you think? Look how his body is shaped. He's trying to make himself look like a very long, jagged stick.
Oh, that's so smart.
So he'll kink up his body in different weird ways to make you think it's a stick. And
I
he'll
just thought that was a black snake that had eaten a bunch of eggs.
No. No, he's trying to make himself look like a stick. Yeah, so they'll do that. They'll lie really still and they'll kind of kink up and twist up. And if you were just kind of walking past that in the grass, you might think that was a stick in the grass. If they're cornered, they will also vibrate their tail, do that rattlesnake thing, and they will strike if they're fearful. They're pretty docile, but I still wouldn't approach one and pick one up with your hands. It's just not a good idea. They also give off that stinky, snaky smell. So yeah, they're very cool. Some of them, I've seen people pick them up and they don't get bitten, but that's not a good thing to do. Don't pick up any wild animal, especially a snake. All right. So our next reptile we're going to be talking about is the eastern box turtle. Okay. Why do you think he got the name box turtle?
Because he's a turtle that sort of looks like a box.
He does kind of have
Okay.
this box shape. That's
Yeah.
what I thought too.
He does look like a box. That's a good answer. The reason they named him a box turtle, though, is because he can pull everything inside that shell and box himself up.
Oh.
Okay. Some turtles can't pull everything inside. He pulls everything in there and boxes himself all up, right? So they have a highly domed top shell. Oh, what is that shell called? Does anybody know?
A carapace.
Yes,
I love that word.
It's called a carapace. Any turtle shell is called a carapace, okay? So his carapace is brightly colored. You guys can see that. That's a pretty shell. He's about 5 inches long, so they get about this big. And they can weigh up to 2 pounds. They have lots of smudges and streaks and mottling, and they can be yellowish, reddish, brown. Their skin color, if you look at this guy right here, their skin color is usually brown or black with yellow, reddish spots on it. So they're very brightly colored. You cannot mistake box turtles. They're not endangered, yay! But they are declining. So why do you think we're losing some of our box turtles?
Are people, is it?
Because are animals hunting them, or are people taking away their homes?
They're both good answers. The main one is people are taking away their homes. Once again, people are building a lot of stuff and they're not paying attention to where they're building. So it's cutting out a lot of their habitat. So exactly, they're not endangered yet, but they are declining. So if they're declining, we really need to pay attention to what's going on with them, okay? I would also like to point out on this guy, this turtle. The turtle, box turtle, is also easily identified by this line down the middle of the carapace. That's called a keel. Every box turtle is going to have that solid line going down the middle of his carapace. Okay, but yeah, box turtles are one of the easiest turtles to identify.
I love them too.
All right, so their common habitat, they like wooded habitats, fields, forests, neighborhoods, and they like to burrow beneath logs and damp vegetation. They don't live near ponds or streams. They're not an aquatic turtle. They like the land, but they like it where it's kind of moist and cool. So yeah, you'll find a lot of those around. And the cool thing about, you can tell which one of these are a male and which one of these are female by the color of their eyes, usually. Most males often have these red eyes. Okay, you can see that on these couple pictures here, and the females will have brown eyes. I think that's a slightly brownish color, but if they're bright red, that's a male turtle. Okay, all right, these guys are diurnal in the summer, but they're only going to come out at dawn after a rain shower. Why is that? Why do you think they only come out after it rains? Why do they stay hidden most of the day? They like those moist areas, right? So after it rains, it just feels wonderful to them. Their skin gets all nice and soft and they just love it. But they don't want to stay out too long because they don't want to get too hot either. Now I know they're reptiles, they do like to be warm, but speaking from my experience, it can get real hot around here in the summertime. So sometimes during the day when it's the highest temperatures, they'll go and hide in a little cool area just to cool off a little bit. In the winter, you can see this guy is getting ready to prepare for the winter. They bury themselves in soil and leaf litter of the forest floor, and they stay down there till it gets warm again. Okay? They don't like to come out much because it's cold. They are omnivorous, meaning they eat everything. They really like berries, insects, roots, flowers, eggs, and amphibians. These guys will eat frogs. Okay? Small ones, not the big ones. Do they have any predators, do you think? Anybody think they have any predators?
I don't know. It'd be hard to eat around that shell.
Right, they do have predators. Raccoons, foxes, and skunks. And they are hard to eat around the shell. But what happens is the raccoons, raccoons have those little hands. And they're so persistent that a raccoon will work on a turtle like this. Somebody have the TV on? Okay. If a raccoon gets a turtle like this, he'll work on it because they're persistent and he'll eventually pry it open. But it's really difficult to get into the shell since they can pull all of their parts in there. So they're pretty well protected there. Okay. Now, why did the turtle cross the road?
To get to the other side.
Why is he getting to the other side?
Because there might be something better.
Okay, turtles have a number of home ranges, meaning they have lots of spots they like to hang out, kind of like humans, okay? They have favorite food sources. They have favorite hiding spots. They even have favorite turtle gathering spots where they'll all kind of hang out and see how their days go, okay? So, best advice, if you want to stop and help a box turtle or any turtle when it's crossing the road, be sure you pick it up and put it to where it's going. Don't put it back. If you put it back, it's going to walk right out into the road again. It's trying to get to one of those favorite places, okay? This little guy right here is a baby box turtle, and the baby box turtles, they hunt in ponds and streams. These guys don't. These guys like it more near the water when they're younger, which unfortunately makes them vulnerable to predators. Okay. All right. And now we're going to end our discussion about reptiles with a common snapping turtle. Okay. These guys are big. They've got huge heads and they've got very big jaws, hence the name snapping turtle. Okay. Their tail has large sawtooth scales, and you can see the scales there, and then they also have the scales on their back. They're longer than any other North Carolina turtle. They can get pretty big. They've got really strong limbs and long claws. So you can see this guy right here, he's big, all right? Their carapace has 3 longitudinal keels. If you look at this first picture right here, you'll count 1, 2, 3. You can see those 3 parts that make up his carapace. That's a good ID for a snapping turtle, besides that big head. The largest snapping turtle they ever found in North Carolina weighed 61 pounds.
Wow.
That's like the size of your little brother or something. That is a big turtle. Okay. The carapace has a jagged posterior edge, meaning down by the tail, it's all jiggy-jaggy back there. Okay, it's not very smooth. And then we talked about the keels. They're brownish above and whitish or yellowish below. So their belly's going to be white, and they've got really long tails. These guys aren't endangered. Yay! They like freshwater habitats, but sometimes they'll go into brackish water. Does anybody know what brackish water is? A guess? You guys can guess. It's okay. I like your guesses.
Doesn't mean like water that has been still for a while?
Brackish water is still water. You might see some water with like algae growing on it or something. They like that too. They'll go in there every once in a while. They're common in large, permanent, relatively quiet bodies of water. They don't like to be disturbed a lot, okay? So they'll be in ponds, lakes, swamps, canals, and rivers. They like the water, right? These guys are omnivorous, meaning they're going to eat everything. They're opportunistic feeders. We talked about this before. The bear is kind of an opportunistic feeder. What does that mean? What does the word opportunity mean?
Like a chance?
Yeah. He's gonna come across, oh, somebody killed that fish over there, but they didn't eat the whole fish. They only ate half the fish. I'm gonna eat the rest of it. So he's gonna come across, if he can find something to eat without putting much effort into it, he's going to. He's slow.
Yeah.
He's slow, so he definitely wants to be able to get something that isn't gonna run really fast from him. He eats a lot of vegetation. He likes plants, okay, but he does eat animals as well. He can't chew. He can't chew his food. So they swallow everything whole. Okay, you would think being a snapping turtle, you would think he could chew it, but he can't chew his food. Okay, does this guy have any predators? Does anybody want to eat him?
Not me.
Yes? No? Take a guess.
Bears? No.
Okay, he has very few predators. The main one is humans. Okay, the young ones, like this little guy right here, they have lots of predators. Okay, they'll be eaten by raccoons, foxes, king snakes, alligators, skunks, fish. But this big guy over here, the only predator he really has is a human being. Okay, their defense. What do you think their defense is? Now I know y'all know this.
Those big old jaws.
Yeah, his defense is his snapping, and he becomes very aggressive. Okay, he will snap and bite, and I've even seen them. What they can do is they'll stand up on their hind legs and start gaping their jaws. And if you're close enough, he will lunge at you like a snake.
Nothing.
Okay? And they also hiss like snakes when they're threatened. If you ever come across a snapping turtle doing that, just stop. Because, yeah, they hurt when they bite, tremendously hurt. Okay? They also give off that snaky, reptilian, musky smell to get things away from them, okay? But pretty much his defense is his powerful jaws. You know, he wants to bite something if it's going to be bothering him. In the water now, if like an alligator came across him, he doesn't want to mess with it. The alligator may not be able to eat him, but the alligator's way bigger.
Mhm.
So he'll just swim away from an alligator. And an alligator, they're usually pretty smart enough to know not to bother with him either. Okay. These guys, they're top level predators. Does anybody know what that means? A top level predator is at the top of the food chain. You are a top level predator. Okay. That means there's not a lot of stuff that's going to eat him. All right. They pose little danger to swimmer or bathers. They're not going to swim up on you and attack. The only way you could disturb one is if you stepped on one in the creek. And if you felt it under your feet, you'll probably jump up quicker than he can react. Yeah. I would suggest, though, if you do ever see one in the water or basking on a log, just don't go near it. Just let him be. Let him, let him take care of himself. The reason humans are the top predator is because human beings like to put them in soup and stews. Would you eat turtle soup?
Maybe.
I don't know if I'd eat turtle soup. I think turtle soup.
I would try it.
I think it would taste kind of, well, brackish, like the water we were talking about. Okay. All right, guys, here are some books you can find on all the reptiles we talked about in Western North Carolina. Since you guys tuned in a little bit later, did anybody do the challenge I asked for last week about picking a state raptor?
Jonathan did. He saw one when he was coming back from cross country. I think it should be the red-tailed hawk.
I like that.
I like that.
I like that. I like that a lot. Thank you, guys. All right. So our challenge this week, and I really want you guys to do this because I want to hear your answers. I'd love to hear your answers the next time we meet. I want to know, are we listening? Okay. I want to know what's your favorite reptile found in Western North Carolina? And it doesn't have to be one that we talked about. Okay, it can be any snake you'd like, any turtle. Tell me about it. I'd love to hear about it. Write about it in your journal. You can draw a picture of it. You can write a poem, anything. But then when we meet next week, I'd really like you guys to tell me because I'd like to know, okay? Next week, we're going to talk about Western North Carolina amphibians.
In 2 weeks.
Oh, excuse me, in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, sorry, guys. What are amphibians?
Miss Kathy's favorite.
Ugh.
Different things like frogs, toads,
Yep.
frogs, dragonflies,
Salamanders, stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not too fond of frogs and toads, but they are good animals and they do serve a good purpose. Also wanted to let you guys know, and you let your parents know this as well. In January, we're not going to be meeting on Fridays anymore. We'll be meeting on Tuesdays at 12 o'clock. So we have one more meeting in December on Friday, and then we're going to switch to Tuesdays. Okay? All right, guys. Well, I want to thank you for tuning in. I want to thank you for allowing me to share some of the stuff I know about all these wonderful critters around here. And I hope you tune in next week and you can see me cringe and over the frogs we're going to talk about. But you all have a great weekend and I'll see you next time, okay?
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.